Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. My wife and I have encountered some relationship difficulties, which I believe are connected to an ex-boyfriend from her past and continue to affect us today. To give you some context, we met while studying abroad and working part-time at the same restaurant. I'm from Australia, and she's from France. After working together for a few shifts, we became friends, and our relationship gradually evolved into something more. At the time, I was 19 and she was 24. We dated for over 3 years before moving to my home country, and 2 years later we decided to get married. The issues began just after we got engaged. Like many couples, we shared the news on social media, celebrating our upcoming wedding with family and friends. A week later, I received a message request on Instagram from an unfamiliar account. Since I noticed that my wife followed this person, I assumed it was one of her old friends. Having already received numerous congratulatory messages from her friends and family, I expected this one to be the same. However, instead of a simple message of congratulations, I was sent several screenshots of conversations in French, followed by a note saying, "You should read these to know who your fiancé really is." Feeling uneasy but still thinking this might be a misunderstanding, I decided to translate the screenshots. I assumed the messages would be harmless, perhaps some light-hearted conversations. Instead, I found explicit discussions about past relationships, which included hurtful comments about certain cultural backgrounds. I'm of Asian descent. When I asked the sender who these messages were between, they replied, implying that my fiancée wasn't who I thought she was, and sent additional videos. The shock I felt was overwhelming. I hesitated, but ultimately decided to watch the videos to determine if they were truly of my wife. That night, after she had fallen asleep, I viewed the footage, hoping it wasn't her. To my dismay, I recognized her in the videos, which appeared to be from a time before we met. The sense of betrayal and confusion was overwhelming. What troubled me most was seeing her engage in behaviors that she had never expressed interest in during our relationship. Unable to keep my feelings bottled up, I confronted her the next morning. I showed her the messages and videos and asked her to explain. She immediately became emotional, apologizing profusely and pleading with me not to leave her. After calming down, she explained that these videos were taken before we met and that she had no idea they existed. She reassured me that she hadn't been unfaithful and that the messages were from long ago, between her and a close friend. To prove her point, she showed me her chat history with that friend, confirming that the conversations were indeed old. She also revealed that the person who sent the messages was her first boyfriend from high school in France. My wife expressed deep regret and shame over her past actions, insisting that she was a different person back then and that those experiences no longer reflected who she is. Though this revelation has been difficult to process and the emotional impact lingers, I'm trying to work through these feelings as we navigate our relationship moving forward. He had been extremely manipulative, both emotionally and mentally, throughout their time together. To gain any kind of affection or approval from him, she would comply with whatever he wanted. She was confused about how he had managed to obtain the screenshots or videos, especially since he hadn't been the one to take them. Eventually, we concluded that he must have hacked into her account somehow. She explained that the two men in the videos were brief relationships she had with Korean boyfriends when she first moved abroad. While I was relieved to learn that these events took place before we met, I couldn't shake the feeling of disgust when I looked at my wife. Over the next few months, I tried to pretend that everything was normal, but I couldn't forget what I had seen. She seemed like a completely different person to me. Although I've always believed that someone's past shouldn't matter, reading those messages and realizing how many people she had been with really troubled me. We'd had shared our past experiences with each other before, and it hadn't bothered me at all. She could have told me any number, and I would have been fine with it as long as it was the truth. But now, knowing she had lied about the number of partners she'd had, and that some of those men were people I knew and considered friends, devastated me. Eventually, I shared my feelings with her after she got upset with me one day for not wanting to be intimate. She started crying and asked if we should cancel the wedding. I suggested that we consider it, but not rush into any decisions, hoping that my feelings would pass and that I would eventually move on. The last thing I wanted was for our friends and family to ask why we had called off the wedding and have to explain what had happened. We agreed to go to couples counseling, aiming to repair our relationship and still get married as planned. Counseling turned out to be very helpful. One of the best aspects was that we could express our feelings, and the counselor would help translate them into something we both could understand. After 10 sessions, we were given a list of strategies to help us rebuild our relationship, and I was referred to a psychologist for individual sessions, which I found incredibly beneficial. By this point, things had mostly returned to normal, but I never quite felt the same or trusted my wife as I once did. We went ahead with the wedding, believing that her past shouldn't dictate my feelings for her, and that ending our relationship would mean letting her ex win. About a year after our wedding, my wife planned a trip to France to visit family and friends. I was supposed to go with her but couldn't due to a recent promotion that required my attention. While she was away, I received another message on Instagram from her ex, claiming she only likes me, followed by another video. I watched a few seconds assuming it was another old video and then blocked him. I intended to show my wife what he had sent but ended up forgetting about it. Fast forward to today. We've been married for almost 2 years and have a baby on the way. During one of her obstetrician appointments, the doctor mentioned possible due dates and the likely period of conception. As I listened, I started doing the math and realized something didn't add up. The time frame for conception pointed to when she was in France visiting her family. I dismissed my calculations, thinking I must have made a mistake, but the memory of her ex's message nagged at me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Eventually, my doubts got the better of me, and I rewatched the video he had sent, searching for any clues about when it was filmed. To my dismay, I noticed a small scar that she had accidentally given herself during our honeymoon, confirming that the video was taken while we were together. After much thought, I've decided not to confront her about what I know. I don't want to involve friends or family, and I won't be seeking counseling this time. The fewer people who know, the better. I don't think I could bear the shame of others finding out that my wife might be carrying another man's child. I'm going to wait until the baby is born before making any final decisions.